Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome here to a double shot interview. Today I'm talking to Kerry Knight, who is a partner at Knight Caldecott. Knight Caldecott are representing Natural Dairy NZ, which is the company planning to buy dairy farms and invest in a bunch of dairy processing facilities and export them to China. Kerry, thank you very much for coming in today. Can you tell us a bit more about the people behind Natural Dairy, in particular Mei Wang for a start?
Mei Wang is actually not behind Natural Dairy. Natural Dairy is a publicly listed Hong Kong company that has been reborn as a New Zealand dairy company, having previously had a life that was a languished life of being a mining supply company. So Mei Wang's actually not involved with that company, but that company has bought a 20% shareholding in a company that Mei Wang currently is involved in, and that company is UBNZ Assets Holdings Limited. Mei Wang then has got an agreement to sell another 80% of the shareholding in that company that she controls through a trust to Natural Dairy, subject to OIO approval.
And so what's going on now at the moment with UBNZ and Natural Dairy? In terms of buying farms?
Well, basically UBNZ is wanting to acquire the farms, and when they do that, they will be using money that Natural Dairy raises on the stock market to purchase those farms. But that is conditional on OIO approval and conditional upon Korda Mentha, the receivers for the balance of the Crayford farms, agreeing to the final terms. And as of today, we are in quite deep negotiations because they want to be satisfied they'll be paid on the settlement date if OIO approval is obtained.
Right. So tell us a bit about the background of the people involved in this project. We've got Mei Wang with UBNZ and Jack Chen with Natural Dairy. Can you talk us through that?
I mean, I obviously worked on this thing for almost a year, so I'm knee deep in it. But Mei Wang, really, it was her brainchild to put this together, and she came from a property development background in New Zealand, and while she's got a past and the media have reported it, that appears to be her only blip, if you like, in her business life. She came to New Zealand in 1988, and she's a New Zealand citizen, like you and I. She put this idea together, went round the world, went to New Zealanders, went everywhere to try to get people to invest in dairy in New Zealand with a view to exporting in China, and she saw 2 years ago there was a real need for this white gold, if you like, to get to China. So she's the instrumental kingpin in it, and once this deal is done, she ends up or her trust that's put it together, because to be fair, she hasn't had any funds, so she's had some other New Zealand Chinese basically back her into making this deal work, and she's lived, with friends. She's stayed in their houses. She's had airfares paid for by other people. So she's been trying to put this together, because at the end of the rainbow, she does make some money, because her trust ends up, the way this deal works, as being a majority shareholder in Natural Dairy. So in actual fact, although the money is raised in Hong Kong, a New Zealand company will still be the majority shareholder of the Hong Kong listed company.
And Jack Chen, what's his background and involvement here?
Yeah, so she met Jack Chen, and he came in 2002 to New Zealand. He has had a colourful past in relation to stock market activity in Hong Kong, Singapore and China. He was censured in China for 3 years, banned from being a director of a public company for anything to do with the Shanghai exchange. He was still able to do things in Hong Kong and in Singapore. And when this dairy deal was effectively backed into Natural Dairy, he at the time was I think he's the majority shareholder, and he was the chairman and the director. He had to step aside, again because of his past in the Shanghai Stock Exchange, because the Hong Kong exchange probably required that. They're very tough. So he's had to step aside, and but it's really between him and Mei, they have done the deal together.
And what's his experience in dairy?
None. Look, none of them have got experience, although Jack has got experience, and this is where really this is different to a lot of other proposals for dairy in New Zealand, is that he has experience in distribution in China and currently has a distribution network, and he was the first person in China to bring in a Tetra Pak plant back in the 80s. So he knows the China distribution, he knows about packaging, and so it's been his idea that long life milk is something that needs to be pursued, as well as infant formula as another product coming out of New Zealand. So whilst they don't have, they haven't had their gumboots on, as a lot of New Zealanders haven't, he does know his way around factories, and he does know his way around distribution.
Why will this plan for an integrated production and marketing dairy operation work when perhaps some others, such as Synlait and some others, have really struggled?
Money. I think that's the difference. The difference is everybody wants to do this, have this totally vertigrated model where you can proudly market your products, you can control each stage of the process. You can control the grass growing, to the cows eating it, to the milk, to the factory, to the packaging, to the shipping, to the distribution. So basically it can be from grass to the shelf controlled by the same entity. So everybody wants to do that, but the difficulty in New Zealand is that it's impossible to raise large sums of capital, as we know. And I know Synlait have gone to the market once, and I think they're currently there at the moment trying to raise funds. But if from a New Zealander's perspective, you have to be wary, because if you invest in only part of that model, i.e. the farms and the production side, and you don't have the sales and distribution network, you never quite know whether they're going to get the sales or distribution. So while you can make all the product, the dairy products, can you actually sell it? This is into the future. And when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that these plants cost, investors are wary.
And what about the local expertise behind this project? I understand there's a couple of people who've come in.
Well, what we've tried to do is that has been a gap, and irrespective of, the reasons are to make the company work, we've tried to fill those gaps. So we're trying to get good directors on, and then the director's job will be to appoint a CEO, and the CEO's job will be to drive the strategy of the company. But bearing in mind it's a company at the moment that only owns 4 farms, it's very hard to justify having a high-powered CEO. In actual fact, it's even hard to justify a high-powered board that we have. But they're investing in the future, I suppose, in the hope that this fundraising will happen and that the OIO approval will be given.
So the next steps here are the OIO looks at the proposal for firstly the 4 farms and then the other 22?
Well, in actual fact, it ends up being the same application, because when Natural Dairy wants to buy the 100% of the assets holding company, they end up getting the access to those 4 farms anyway, because they're part of that bundle. So part of the arrangement we've got with the OIO is put an application in for the whole lot, and then carve out the same information for those 4 farms and put a separate application in for those, and ask or plead for retrospective consent.
And finally, what do you think of the controversy that's blown up in the last couple of days around this?
It's really unfortunate. I don't think it was intended. It was sort of a miscommunication whereby it seemed to come across the news wires that they had bought $1.5 billion worth of dairy assets, and so everybody, of course, got into a frenzy. And the intention was that they want to raise 1.5 to go and buy 1.5 of assets, and as you and I both know, they couldn't do that today. If they had the pile of cash in this room, it wouldn't be possible. So it might take them 5 years, it might take 10. That's their ambitious plans, because they are ambitious people, and you just have to take one step. But now that there's a board there's a board that they're accountable to, the board will be making the strategic decisions and growing in a pace that they can do. That hopefully, though, they'll grow as a company with cash in the bank, rather than as a lot of other companies grow, they get the first stage started and then run out of steam.
Great. This is Kerry Knight talking from Knight Caldecott about natural dairy. I'm Bernard Hickey for interest.co.nz, and that was another double shot interview.